She's like, let's get married. That'll solve my problem.
Exactly.
She needs another man to wake her up.
Welcome to Rom Com Vom, a sex ed with DB podcast series where in every episode we go under the covers with a beloved rom-com, strip away its hidden toxic messages, and rewrite the script on love and sex. Do you ever want to get intimate with your partner, but just kind of feel something telling you that you're not super into it and not sure how to get the spark back? Let's talk about Aria. Aria is a service for couples that makes it easy to break out of routine, deepen emotional connection, and energize their relationship with curated experiences called scenes. You will also receive access to the Aria Concierge, who's like your relationship's wingman, a real person who feels out your vibe and serves up spicy monthly experiences for two. Pause this episode now and visit arya.fyi and use code SEXEDWITHDB for 15% off.
Ever feel like the wellness landscape is missing something and that conversations are very one-size-fits-all? And that the conversations don't necessarily apply to your experiences? Hi, I'm Dr. Cassandra Dunbar, the host of the Be Well Sis podcast. Be Well Sis explores everything from hormonal health to aging to relationships and everything in between. The Be Well Sis podcast is your home for insightful conversations with incredibly inspiring women from all walks of life. Join us every week and tune into an episode that is crafted to help you thrive physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The Be Well Sis podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Be Well Sis.
I'm about to get personal here, so listen up. I'm going to tell you a fun fact about me that you definitely didn't know. The lube that I use most consistently is Uberlube. I really mean it. If you were here with me right now, I'd tell you to go over to my nightstand drawer and tell me what you see. That's right, you would see a bottle of Uberlube. If you've never heard of Uberlube, let me tell you about it. Uberlube is a silky smooth silicone-based lube recommended by leading doctors, and its body-friendly ingredient list makes it widely used by people with sensitivities to lubricants. Another amazing thing about Uberlube is that it doesn't leave a sticky residue like water-based lubes do. It lasts for a long time and doesn't stain clothing or bedding. I have 3 bottles of Uberlube on my bedside table right now, ready when I need it. If you're someone who wants to feel more pleasure in the bedroom, use code SEXEDWITHDB for 10% off at uberlube.com. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Rom Com Vom. I am your host, DB, sex educator, pleasure expert, and rom-com critic. To help us break down this week's rom-com, I'm joined by very funny comedian Hari Kondabolu. You've seen him on Conan, Kimmel, Letterman, and heard him all over NPR. His latest special, Vacation Baby, is streaming now on YouTube, so go check it out. Hari, welcome to Rom Com Vom. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Danielle. No, it's great to be here. Excited to talk about The Wedding Singer.
Yes, can't wait to talk about that. And just a little trivia teaser before we get into the episode that you'll learn more about at the end. A legend of Hollywood was brought in behind the scenes to secretly rework the script of this rom-com, specifically to make the female lead smarter, sharper, and more dimensional. Stick around to find out who it was. Hurry, do you have any random guesses as to who was brought in to make the script better?
No, but I'm shocked someone was brought in.
That's good. That's why you're a funny guy. You're a comedian. That's good. Good timing. So today, yes, we're reviewing The Wedding Singer. Hurry, what is your relationship to this movie?
I remember loving this film when I was in high school or college or whenever it came out. I think I was in high school and
98. Came out in 98.
So I was in high school and I was like the right age, like loved romantic comedies and romance movies, teen, adolescence, the whole thing. And obviously also like it at the time it was seen as a departure for Adam Sandler. And I remember that just because I think his 2 big movies before this were Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. So this was the one that still, it wasn't the same formula. So it was
right.
It was like different. And the fact that like Drew Barrymore was in it, like there was a certain degree of legitimacy to it. Like this is like a major film.
This is for real.
This is for real. So I remember watching it. I don't remember if it was in a theater or not, if I saw it in a theater. I remember loving the movie and remember, it being one of my favorite Adam Sandler films.
Yes. I'm so glad we're on the same page about this. This is a family favorite of my family's. I've seen this film, I really kid you not, upwards of 50 to 100 times. Like, I
Yeah.
just really loved it as a kid. And I, in fact, sang the song that he sings on the airplane, I Want to Grow Up With You, at 2 weddings. I sang it at my dad's
Ha.
wedding when I was 13.
Yeah.
And then I sang it at my brother's wedding when I was like 25 or something. So really know the song deeply. And maybe we should end the episode with some singing of the song.
It still
But
got to me. It's still
it's
even
beautiful. It's cute.
very cute. Yeah.
Their chemistry is very seamless in many films, and I think this was one of the first films or the first film they were in together. And so, okay, if dear listener, you need a rundown, a refresher of the film, let me tell you if you haven't seen it so recently, like me and Hari have. In The Wedding Singer, Adam Sandler plays Robbie Hart, very hot name, also Robbie Hart. A hopeless romantic wedding singer who gets left at the altar and loses all faith in love until he meets Julia, Drew Barrymore, a sweet waitress who's engaged to an absolute sleazebag named Glenn. Sparks fly, mixtapes are exchanged, and eventually love wins with a little help from Billy Idol, question mark. So random how he is in this film. But okay, now we're getting into our segment that's called As a Kid. And I want to know, like, if you could choose one word that described your relationship to this film in high school, what would that be? And like on the back of that, what's like one scene that really defined this film for you that you really loved?
I mean, it's probably sweet. It's a very sweet movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even now, like, it was still like a sweet movie, even with the criticisms I have of it, looking at it as an adult. Um, I mean, the scene to me that probably can I say 2 scenes, or do you want me to stick to one?
Please go ahead.
The funniest scene, which to me is still the funniest scene, is when he sings that Cure-inspired song.
Oh, somebody
Kill me, please. I'm on my knees. And then the song is
rocking.
great. And then the best part of that, because the song's is just hilarious and perfect, is when they show John Lovitz. He's losing his mind, and I'm reaping all the benefits.
And he's just closing the
The
curtain.
curtain closes. Like, that to me is still extremely funny, and John Lovitz is really funny in that like appearance, and that and then the in terms of the sweetest scene, it would be the
Oh, because
airplane.
that's not the sweet one.
That's still funny to me. Like, that was still as funny
so
as
good.
And the sweetest scene would be the airplane scene. It would be, him singing the song and Billy Idol getting onto the loudspeaker and making sure that Adam Sandler had his time. So it was, yeah, I mean, those scenes are still like gold to me.
Completely. Yeah. I think that I also really like the scene where he is teaching the older lady singing lessons and then
Yeah,
she
yeah.
pays him in meatballs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a family favorite part as well. But yeah, definitely I would say nostalgic. I just think that it's a movie that's made in the 90s to be it's pretending to be a movie in the 80s, right? So there's like
Yes.
so much like 80s content in it. And like the hair, the style, like the music, the soundtrack is amazing to this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so nostalgic. And I would have to agree, the airplane scene, I just thought that that was how you treated a woman. I was like, wow, well, if a man wants to date me in the future, then he has to hop on a plane and like get on the loudspeaker and serenade me in
Yes.
front of everybody. And it really set a high bar, I think, for what I expected as a young girl.
Completely unrealistic expectations.
Very unrealistic, which we'll get to that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But before we finish this segment, I want to know, before we rip this movie to shreds, what do you like about this movie? What do you think works in general?
I think that the music parts still work. Like, he's still like a capable comedic singer. I think the cameo appearances by like Steve Buscemi or Billy Idol and the little bit parts of John Lovitz still work. It's still, you still root for him. It's still funny, and it wasn't as funny as I remember it being 20 plus years ago, but it's still funny. It still has funny moments in it. And there's still the thing still has heart. I mean, that there's a reason you root for him. Like you feel for him, and um all that still works.
Totally. I think also his relationship to his best friend Sammy. I don't know that guy's name, but he's in every Adam Sandler
Yes,
movie.
yes.
I really should learn his name because his whole crew, kind of the Big Daddy crew, they're in
Always
everything.
show up. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that, yeah, their friendship is, like, really sweet. I think that Julia's, like, friendship with her cousin Holly is really great.
Yeah.
And I think that their chemistry overall is amazing, and even though they do kind of some, like, time jumps because it makes it seem like, "Oh, wow, they're just in love and it is happening really quickly," it feels like it does happen over a few months because Julia is engaged to Glenn and their wedding is in a few months. And
Yeah.
kind of during that time, that's when, Robbie and Julia fall in love with each other. And I just think that the realisticness of their crush on each other does feel very tangible and very real.
There's some movie magic. It moves a little quick. It does move a
Yeah,
little quick, but
a little bit,
yeah.
but I don't know, people fall in love out here in a few weeks and they're crazy about it, Think about COVID relationships. I feel
Sure,
like
sure.
how many people do you know who, like, moved in, like, a few months into dating during COVID? I feel like I have, like, many couple friends I
Yeah,
know who
yeah.
did that. So, we'll give Julia and Robbie a break for that one. But I want to get into our rating before the rewatch. So I asked you to rate the film before the rewatch so we can compare our pre and post watch ratings. But first, let's go over our Rom Com Vom rating system of 1 to 5 voms. 1 vom, dated, mostly harmless. We'll kind of take it, I think that like Dirty Dancing, there are like a few other movies that just have a one. Notting Hill very much stayed at a 1 after the rewatch, which I was surprised by, all the way to 5 voms. We're talking Shallow Hal, full body cringe. This did not age well.
Yeah.
What did you rate the film before the rewatch, Hurry?
I mean, my gut was to say 1, but like I always have a little bit of cynicism with anything that's dated, so I would say 1.5.
Okay, we'll take the half.
Just
I
a little bit of cynicism. Yeah.
Yes, I think that I kind of, yeah, I've seen this movie a trillion times. I know every line. I'm one of those freaks where once I see a movie a few times, I'm able to kind of like recite the whole thing. And so because I know this movie so well, there weren't that many surprises. However, because of what I knew about how they were kind of making fun of George and making, I just
Yeah.
knew that there was going to be some scary kind of homophobia, transphobia, fat phobia always present in Adam Sandler movies. So I went with the 2 for the Vom rewatch before the rewatch.
I forgot about all those things. Like
You did.
I didn't remember any of the only I had like certain things I'm like I know this has some of this, but I forgot about all that until I rewatched it.
Oh, well, let's get into it. Let's get into our main segment called That's Problematic, where we go through all of the issues that this film has. And I think I mean, we're there. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. I think like the bucket of what this film says about the era, right? Like
Yeah.
this movie is trying to be a love letter to the 80s, but it was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
And again, especially in Adam Sandler movies, they end up doubling down on some of the decade's worst cultural norms. So we're talking fat jokes of like, oh, this fat person can't wait at a wedding because they have to dive into the wedding cake early. Oh, the fat person who doesn't have a date and like that person's a loser. Casual homophobia and transphobia when it comes to making fun of George, who clearly is, either a cis man or a trans woman, and uh, wearing makeup, like dressing like a woman. But clearly George is the butt of the
Oh,
joke.
there was outward disgust from the
Yes.
audience at the wedding when
Yelling at
yeah.
George.
Yeah. So like it was like there's one thing with like when George repeats the song, it's like
2 times.
that's one thing, but just from the get-go there was I have to see this now, and you felt it. Like it's one of those things where you didn't need the strong verbal, like you didn't need the verbal transphobia. The feeling was so like soaked with it. Like you're like,
Mhm.
I hate the fact that this character is going to be treated like shit just from how they're looking at him.
From being himself,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's so interesting because I don't know Boy George very well, who is an icon in the 80s, who I think this character is kind of based off of.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when we think about people like Prince, right? Like Prince, dressed in like very feminine clothing and had a really high pitched voice. And some people saw that as very sexy, and like Prince was idolized in this way. Same kind of thing with like Billy Idol, right? Like Billy Idol kind of like wore makeup and like very tight clothes and was idolized by very masculine people. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting that like this character is very much hated and very much made fun of. And we're being taught as the audience that like this person is not worthy of good writing or of,
Right.
just meant to be someone who we laugh at.
Yeah, throughout the film, like George doesn't get one line that's thoughtful. Doesn't get. I don't know if George gets a line. I don't
I
think
don't
George
think
has a
George
sentence.
speaks.
Like there's the only moment where you get some kind of character development is when Robbie gets left at the altar and George is crying, which
Right.
you could see like George cares about Robbie, and that's as much as you're gonna get. The rest of it is sneers and like rolling eyes, and George is seen as a joke, and that's all.
Right.
That's really what George's purpose is in the film from the late Alexis Arquette. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think that when it comes to transitioning over to like the fat phobia that's
Yeah.
always present in Adam Sandler movies,
Yeah.
right? Like it's very clear with the few people who we see at these weddings, one of whom is, eating the wedding cake before they cut it
And being reprimanded for doing
and
that.
being reprimanded, and
Yeah.
we're meant to see that as a joke. The only kind of like fat person / like chubby person who is not reprimanded in this film is the boy who plays Bruce in Matilda. I don't know that guy's name, but the kid who basically gets to dance with Julia
Yeah.
at the bar mitzvah because he is seen as kind of like a loser and all the other girls don't want to dance with him. So when it's a young boy who's fat,
Yeah.
then we're kind of seen as like, oh, it's cute. Like he's able even able to go as far as touching Julia's butt and
Yes.
like
Which
being
happens
inappropriate,
multiple times in the
which
film where
happens multiple times
yeah,
where people are being inappropriate with her.
where they're either talking about her body or just straight up touching her body without consent. Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to dig into that a little bit? I feel like there's something juicy there.
I mean, sure. I mean, like Robbie's best friend's character talks about, Drew Barrymore's character, but Julia's like body right in the beginning. There's a man like when she's waitressing, an old man that like pinches her butt. Then during this scene, which is a sweet scene, it's supposed to be like, this poor young boy is getting bullied. He feels alone, and that speaks to a certain kind of young person in the audience who's like, girls don't like me because of the way I look and I'm out of
Right.
shape or I don't have this look that girls like. And he ends up, oh, I get to dance with the hot lady. Like that's certainly feeding a certain kind of young man who's like, this is cool. This is great. And the fact that he touches her butt is like, whoa, like this is like he's living the life,
Right. And she doesn't correct him.
No.
She's just kind of seen as like shocked by this.
Yes.
And then Robbie starts to dance with a young girl and then starts to put her hands on his butt. And then it turns into like a bit where everyone is
Right.
dancing with
Right.
their hands on each other's butts. And then we see the cook put his hands on Sammy's butt in a way that's like he's really grabbing it.
Yeah.
And we're made to think like, oh, maybe he's queer, maybe he's gay. Like that's kind of the note I feel like that I took.
Right.
Or he's
it's
horny or what?
or it's almost like, isn't that ridiculous that they're acting, as if they're gay?
Right. It's like making fun of queer people
Yes.
or very
Or just the
clearly.
absurdity of it. Like that's not a real thing that could happen. What an absurd
Right.
sight. And so yeah, I mean that's like it's just used for a gag, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like plain homophobia.
Yeah, a sight gag, yeah.
Flicking the bean. jilling off, menage a moi. All of these are creative and hilarious ways to say masturbation. For 21 days, I embarked on what started as a personal masturbation experiment with one of my all-time favorite vibes, the magic wand. The goal? To answer one burning question. What is the impact of daily magic wand use on my health, wellness, and sexual experiences compared to regular sexual activity and no sexual activity? Spoiler alert, the results were so surprising, they've inspired me and the Magic Wand team to turn this experiment into a full-fledged study. Now 1,000 other people are diving deeper into how consistent self-pleasure affects everything from mental health to sexual satisfaction. Want to see the hypotheses and the results from my study? Head to sexedwithdb.com/magicwandexperiment to check it out. Let me tell you about one of my favorite pleasure products retailers out there, Lion's Den. If you haven't heard about Lion's Den before, I cannot wait to tell you about them now. Lion's Den opened its first retail facility in Columbus, Ohio in 1971. That's right, over 50 years ago. Since then, they have grown to more than 50 outlets throughout the US, building their reputation on high-quality products, low prices, and a knowledgeable sales staff who can help you find the perfect toy. One of the many things I love about Lion's Den is that they advocate for a sex-positive perspective on intimacy and sexual well-being, and strive to break the stereotypes and stigma surrounding sex by providing comprehensive educational resources to empower everyone to enjoy life to the fullest. They are simply amazing. Lucky for you, Lion's Den is giving my listeners an exclusive discount of 15% off your purchase in-store and online with code SEXEDWITHDB at lionsden.com. What are you waiting for? Get your amazing Lion's Den toy now. If you've been wanting more intentional time with your partner but don't want the hassle of spending a lot of money for a fancy date night, look no further. Aria has you covered. Aria is a service for couples that makes it easy to break out of routine, deepen emotional connection, and energize their relationship with curated experiences called scenes. I recently did one called Heat, and I could not recommend it enough. Prioritizing intimacy with your partner is essential, and Aria makes it easy. Visit arya.fyi and use code SEXEDWITHDB for 15% off now. And then, speaking of the cook, there was this moment where, we see the backstage details of what's happening in the kitchen. And Julia goes in wanting more prime rib. And he says, make them eat fish. Like, he's a grumpy old man to her. But then her cousin Holly comes in. And she's like, I need more prime rib. And he says, your wish is my command. And Holly basically tells us that the reason why he's so nice to her is because she, quote, let him see her boobs at the Christmas party once, right?
Yeah.
And we're made to believe that this is just like kind of a normal thing. Ma'am, this is harassment and assault. Like, someone making your life easier by you showing them your naked body at work? Please. Like,
yeah.
What did you think of this part, Hari? Give me your feelings.
I mean, it goes into, they're also setting up Holly as a character, right? Like, they slut shame her throughout the whole movie. I mean, she doesn't, like, she kind of owns it.
Right.
Which is what I like. Like, she owns it. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to have sex with, like, but like throughout the film, it's just jokes at her expense for that. So this is kind of the beginning of that, like, trajectory.
Yes, it really reminds me, actually, we've done Never Been Kissed on this show. Have you seen that film?
No, I haven't.
Drew Barrymore is the lead of that film, and Molly Shannon is her best friend in that movie, who's also a slut. So they're like setting up Drew Barrymore. This is like actually the next right. kind of bucket that I have of like, she's not like the other girls, right? Like, this is like
contrast.
Yes, this is like a whole thing in rom-coms, right? Of like the main girl being seen as this like perfect woman. She's sweet, she's demure, she's low maintenance, she's chill. Listen, she giggles. She puts up with Robbie's like craziness, singing about how he wants to kill himself in a song that he's, sharing with her that's supposed to be like exciting.
Right.
And this movie kind of props her up by tearing other women down, right?
Yes.
And so
twice, because it's not just with Holly, but it's also with the ex.
Yes, let's talk about Linda. Okay. So Linda very clearly, is someone who leaves Robbie at the altar, and then she comes back at her own, desire, just like when she feels like coming back to him, that's when she comes back.
Right.
And then she's really meant to be this person who Julia finds naked at the door in order for there to be conflict. I feel like that's like the main reason why Linda kind of comes back. But yeah, compared to Holly and Linda, Julia is this just like sweet, cute girl with nothing wrong. Whereas, Robbie dates that's like desperate or deranged or kind of like assertive women, and those women are punchlines.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like Julia is a passive observer of her own life. Like it's happening. She's going along with it. There are moments where she has doubts and questions, but those get glossed over. And she's like, I'm going to marry Glenn. I guess this is what's happening. I've waited this long for this person. This person treats me poorly, but I'm just going to go along with it. Like you have somebody who like is seen as the ideal by just going along with whatever the man wants or the man is willing to give her.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you have these other two characters, one who is like clearly in control of her sexuality, makes choices she wants to make, and that is seen as like negative. And then on the other hand, you have somebody who also makes choices that they want to make in a very selfish way. It's not to say that what Linda is doing is positive. Like this is a good example, but it's contrasted with Drew Barrymore. Like this is what happens when you have somebody who, has complete control. Like Linda's not a good character. Linda's not a kind character. Linda's not someone to aspire to anyway. But at the same time, when contrasted with, well, it's still, she's this passive person is still better than that. This person
Right.
who is not making choices, is better than that.
Exactly. And I find this to be particularly problematic because it reinforces the idea that women, and especially our main character, should be gentle, passive, different from the others in order to be lovable. We do see one moment of Julia get angry when Robbie basically accuses her of marrying Glenn for his money.
Sure.
And she kind of throws the present up in the air, which was, it says music and words by Robbie Hart. It's like sheet music that she like personalized for him. And she says, "You asshole," and throws it in the air, right? That's like the one moment we kind of see her lose it in the film.
Even though ultimately, these are extremes. Obviously, all these things are extremes. Like the idea that someone is marrying somebody for money is not a good thing, but the idea of stability is not a bad thing.
Right.
The idea of being safe is not a bad thing. The idea of maybe somebody more stable than $60 a wedding gig is not. None of these things, when you come to the real world, like, is it romantic? No, but real people, if you're going to move out of a basement, have to make money. Real people, when you want there to be good, a person can be sweet and kind and romantic and all these things, that their character, the base of what they are, is like is exactly what you want in a partner. Money is still something you have to deal with, but like in this situation, it's like pure fantasy and romance, and all that matters is love. Which is not to say that love isn't really the most important thing, but at the same time, these other factors come into play. So it's a complete dismissal of any kind of like, why wouldn't you want to date somebody who is in potential financial peril, especially after blowing wedding gigs over the past several weeks because he's been incredibly depressed after a terrible breakup. So like there's also this complete like over the top like complete fantasy world, and this is what a relationship should be.
Right. Yes. I mean, this is like the classic rom-com trope, right? Of like, let's make anything possible to get these two characters together, even if it is incredibly ridiculous. And I think like to that point, let's speak about Glenn for a hot second, because Glenn is the fiance that is very clear to the audience that he's a huge prick. And like everyone knows that because it's clear that all he cares about is money. He doesn't want to be involved in the wedding planning. He very clearly cheats on Julia. We see him before his pre-party bachelor party where he's like already hanging his arms around other women.
Yeah.
And it's so clear to the audience that Glenn is such an asshole, and why would she be with him if he's so terrible to her?
There's also signs earlier, even before we see the adultering, like the the wedding means more to you anyway, so why don't you
Right.
plan it?
Oh, you're looking at your notes. You took
Oh,
some
I took
notes,
notes.
Stab.
Oh, I took notes. I mean, also just like the idea, like when he wants the idea that he wants, after waiting for a number of years to get married, why don't we just go to Vegas and do it?
Right.
And she goes along with it because she's is a vessel. Just yes, sure. And then he's like, "Are you going to do the girl thing and pout on the inside?"
Right.
No, no, I'm not going to do that. Again, passive vessel. Okay, we'll have a real wedding.
Right.
It's like
You win.
whatever it is, like Julia's going to be fine with it. And that's her
Right.
character. Whatever it is, whether it's Vegas, you insult me to my face, okay, you give me what I deserve,
Right.
and I'm so happy that you gave me what I deserve.
Exactly.
So,
Like she should be begging basically, or
yes.
for very normal things in an equal healthy what should be an equal healthy relationship is not in their case.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of is interesting. It kind of speaks to like a larger issue, specifically in like cis hetero relationships where men are the breadwinners and where women then, this part I think is very true to real life, where like women who don't make money maybe either feel or in reality don't have as much say in
Yeah.
like decisions and like how a couple goes about their life. And I think like that is the patriarchy. That is like an example of, in real life, how women are not able to get what they want, get what they deserve, and be able to voice their opinion in a real way because they feel like if they aren't bringing home the bacon, if they don't have the
Yeah.
money, then how are they to be independent and be able to speak on what they believe is right? Right. Like that's kind of bringing it to a larger degree.
But the goal is never independence. I mean, in this film, it's never really.
Oh, it's dependence.
It's complete dependence. It's marriage is the goal of all of this. Like
Exactly.
not of a healthy relationship or not of building something together. It's
To be married.
to be married, and that's
Like
kind of
when her
amazing.
mom, when, they're pulling up to Robbie's wedding, Julia's mom and Julia, because Julia's going to be the waitress at Robbie's wedding.
Yeah.
The mom says, "Look at that girl. You're much prettier than that girl."
Right.
And
Right.
Julia says, "What does pretty have to do with being married?" And the mom says, "Everything. It has everything to do with being married," right? Like there's so many messages in here that are enforced in so many of these rom-coms that like as the woman, your one goal in life is to be pretty and to be married
Yeah.
at the same time. And yeah, it's so obvious that this like Julia being not like the other girls trope is kind of like the thing that we as the audience are supposed to see and supposed to aspire to, especially
Right.
young women.
And also that's seen as a progressive thought to question, what does pretty have to do with it? Like she's questioning it, but also it's like, it's Drew Barrymore. You're seen as pretty.
Right.
So it doesn't really.
It doesn't apply.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, also the whole thing. She's basically a damsel in distress the whole movie.
Say more. Tell me everything.
Like she needs to be saved. Like it's building to Robbie saving her,
Right.
and Robbie is the knight, and he's gonna save her, and he saves her at the end by singing her a song, and that's how he saves her at the end. Like she's waiting to be saved. It's not all the terrible things that Glenn does to her. No, in fact, she's like, let's get married. That'll solve my problem. Let's just go to
Exactly.
Vegas and get problem. It's this man singing a song. She needs another man to wake her up. Not that
Mm,
she can do it herself. She needs that dependency has to move to another man. Otherwise, I can't do this.
right.
I need to be with someone. I can't be alone.
Hmm.
Being alone is the worst thing you can be, which we get also from Robbie. Like the idea of being alone is the worst thing you can be. If I'm going to leave Glenn, it's not to be alone. It has to be for somebody else.
Yes. And we see that reflected too in the other two female characters of like Holly, she's alone and she's a slut. And
Right.
Linda, now she's alone and it's because she like didn't follow the rules or
That's her
whatever it is.
punishment. That's her punishment at this point. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point about the damsel in distress and the knight having to save her. And that's the ultimate sign of a 90s rom-com, right? Of like
Yeah.
the man doing a grand gesture. We're talking Pretty Woman, Richard Gere in the limo. Like that's gonna solve all of our problems. let's rewrite a part of this film together. If we were to tell this story in 2025, so this is a 27-year-old movie, what would be like a narrative or a character that we change?
I mean, the wedding doesn't happen at the end.
Okay, what's the ending instead?
They can be happy. They can be living together.
Why don't you just date?
They could date, but it doesn't end in a. Again, it's just a little bit of complexity to say like this. They're learning to grow together.
Mm,
They just basically met. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
one of those. This is the exact kind of thing that sets unrealistic expectations, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember being 14 and being like every crush I had, like imagined marrying them because that's what it
That's
was.
what happened.
That's what happens, right? So that I would scrap immediately, and just even because I think it does change things if they're not married and you just see them dating and happy.
Maybe it's a montage.
It's a montage that gives you something that still gives you like some development, or even seeing them argue about something. Like it's like this is what a relationship is. This is
Mm.
how it looks. So I think that
You
was the
want to
first
watch
thing.
them pay for their car insurance. You want to watch them. You want to watch them kind of do mundane day-to-day things.
You can still make that funny. You know what I
You
mean?
can. It's true. Maybe they're like arguing about the paper and they're like, "Oh, I thought you paid it."
Yeah.
I like that. I like that rewrite. I think that it's clear, as we kind of mentioned earlier, they have chemistry. So, like, it's not outlandish that one day they would get married, but the fact that they get married the very next day, that she's in the same dress, everyone somehow shows up to this wedding. He also was supposed to get married like 2 months ago. So it's just, yeah, the whole thing, you're right, is on a truncated timeline. And obviously, I would like to have cut out all of the misogynistic bullshit lines that are
Yeah.
in there. Like, it feels like just cut them. You don't need them. You don't need to objectify this woman in order for this movie to be funny. There are plenty of other parts. Like, I am reaping all the benefits.
I
um,
mean, and if you're gonna keep it on Glenn.
keep it on Glenn. Let's like
'Cause
make it clear that he's the asshole.
he's the villain. Yeah.
All right, Hurry. We are towards the end of this episode. This has been a lot of fun. I love hearing your comedian brain dissect these things. Let's rate the film. After revisiting the film, what is your post-watch rating on our Vom scale 1 to 5?
Can you remind me what 2 means and what 3 means?
So 1 is kind of like dated, mostly harmless. We're talking like Notting Hill, like pretty simple.
Yeah.
3, we're kind of getting into like oof, like we're talking homophobia. We're talking like this kind of scary things anywhere in the middle. Whereas 5 is that shallow how full body cringe.
Yeah.
This did not age well. So where do you think you would land?
I'd give this a 2.5 or a 3. I think in the middle of the scale. It's not the worst of the worst. It's not. It just kind of reinforces what was already the norm of the era. You know,
Yes,
even Shallow Hal when that came out, I remember watching like this is
this is dog
way
shit.
yeah. It's a bad film and it's so way over the top
I
mean.
know. It's
Like it
so mean.
it's kind of it was a bit it's a lot. So I think this definitely isn't as bad as that, and it still has lots of sweet moments, and there's
Mm-hmm.
still things to enjoy in it.
Chemistry. Yeah.
Great chemistry. But to me it's kind of like right in the middle. Like this is kind of like still acceptable but questionable at times. Like I can still watch this and not feel gross that I watched it.
Totally. Yeah, I'll give it a 3. I think like before this most recent rewatch and before I started doing this podcast, I don't think that even when I'm watching these things, I'm fully attuned to like what messages I was really receiving when I was a kid. And I think that because of the way that George is treated, because of the casual misogyny, because Julia is kind of reinforcing the writing of her is reinforcing this like you have to be sweet, you have to be passive in order to be loved. And I feel like I never, as a woman, a Jewish woman from Long Island who has a lot of passion and feeling, never associated myself with a character like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just don't like that was so normalized. And again, like these films, millions and millions of people watch these films at very critical times in their lives when they were growing up, when they were first entering relationships. And so I think it is really worth like revisiting and really understanding like, what didn't I notice when I was that age? Okay, are you ready to learn about who the Hollywood legend who cleaned up the screenplay is?
Yes, I would.
Okay, here are the trivia teaser deeds. So it was Carrie Fisher, aka Princess Leia in Star Wars.
Really?
She spent 6 months quietly polishing the script and said her personal
6
mission
months?
and said her personal mission was to, quote, make the women smarter and the love scenes better. Question mark?
Yeah, I don't. That's really shocking. Okay.
Quite.
Yeah.
Thank God for Carrie, I guess, in some capacity. If you have a rom-com you remember from growing up, please submit it to us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, leaving a comment on Spotify. Hari, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram at Hari Kondabolu. So probably you'd write Harik, and then you'll find me, Hari Kondabolu. I have a special out on Hulu and on YouTube called Vacation Baby.
Yes.
And I'll be touring all over the country, including in New York on May 29th at the Gramercy, and in Houston on May 30th at the Punchline Comedy Club. Oh, also New Haven. If anyone is in New Haven, I'm at
Connecticuters.
If there are any Connecticut fans, I'm in New Haven,
Connecticut. I'm a fan of Connecticut. Hari, thank you so much for being here. This has been great.
Absolutely.
Our creator, host, and executive producer is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our producer is Sadie Leegee. Our communications lead is Catherine Cohen. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Thanks so much to our featured guests, partners, and listeners. If you have a rom-com you remember from growing up and want us to cover it on Rom Com Vom, submit it to us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and leaving a comment on Spotify. Want to partner with us? Email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Instagram at sexedwithdbpodcast. See you next time.